So this week Q&A, and I hope you've had a good week. I've had a good week, so I hope you've had a good week so far as well. The question that was put to me, I was actually on a podcast this morning, a really interesting one. I'm looking forward to sharing it, that came from the Raw. So for those of you who follow in rugby league, there's a podcast there that really, focuses in on some of the issues that are relevant within rugby league. So they were keen to have a look at it from a sports psychology perspective. So I wish I'd actually written down all the questions when I was being asked them, and maybe I'll do that when the live one comes out, because there were some great questions that we could talk about here in the group, and particularly here in the Q&A. But one question that came through to me last week from someone within the group wanted me to talk a little bit about grit and what grit actually is. So grit's a term that's been around for a couple of years now, and I guess the academic researcher who is most well known for having worked in the area of grit is a woman by the name of Angela Duckworth. So Angela wrote a book called Grit a couple of years ago now, and it's really kind of the cornerstone book that anyone can read, and gives you some really good information around grit and grittiness and what that is. And I think if we were going to really just simplistically define it, which is what Angela does in her book, as well, is for her, grit is what happens when passion is paralleled with perseverance. So when you are passionate about something and then you can persevere through things, then that gives you that grittiness, if you like, if that's such a word, grittiness, to hang in there. Because I think probably one of the things that happens whenever we're working towards something that's important to us is that it's easy sometimes to fall by the wayside, to start off with great intentions. We've talked about good intentions before. So we start off with good intentions, but then you kind of hit that phase through the middle where you've got to keep working hard. The adversities might come. It might be tough. It might be boring, whatever it is. And that's where that perseverance is going to be really helpful for you. So a couple of things I was just going to speak to around what are some of the things that we know helps us to be gritty, to hang in there. So, and I guess these are things that we could be doing at that moment when you're working on something, and then part of you says, oh no, I'm going to go and do something else, or I'm going to stop now. Or, it could be something that you're doing in your physical training. It could be something that you're doing in your work. It could be something that you're doing within, your team, if you're in a team sport, whatever that might be. So the first thing I think that helps us to hang in there and to persevere particularly is to have a very clear idea as to why we're doing whatever the particular task is. So to really understand our purpose. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk about the why, finding your why, particularly since Simon Sinek's presentation that came out quite a few years ago now. But just because we've been talking about it for a long time doesn't mean that it's any less valid. So if you have got any significant project or anything that you are working on or any goal that you are setting for yourself, it's really helpful for you to spend a little bit of time thinking about, why am I doing this? What does this mean for me? And to be clear with that, I would even suggest that if you are someone who likes to journal, you hear me talk a lot about journaling because there is a lot to be said for documenting and reflecting on what you're doing. It doesn't mean you always have to write it down. I write it down because I'm a written learner, but you could be someone who you could jot it into your phone, you could record it as an audio, you could do, if you're visual, you could do some sort of vision board or something like that, if that's the sort of stuff that you're into. But understanding why you want to do an activity, the reason that becomes really important is when you hit the drudge, when you hit the hard parts, when you hit the bits where, your head's saying no, even though you need to keep going, it's your why sometimes that can get you through that particular activity. So that's a really helpful way to think that through. So if you are an athlete and you are working towards a particular goal, let's say you're an injured athlete and you're coming back, and you've got a long period of time in front of you in terms of rehabilitation from your injury, then you might be really benefit from thinking about why you're doing your rehab exercises, and to have that really at the front of your mind, because then on the days when you don't feel like doing it, then on the days when you think, oh, I'll skip it and I'll do it tomorrow, you can come back to your why. And it's much easier if it's written down and it's in front of you. Why am I going to training today to do these particular rehab exercises? Because each time I do leg extensions or bicep curls or whatever it is, it's getting me closer to getting back to my sport. So understanding your why is incredibly important. So going along with that then is, setting yourself little milestone goals. That's another way to keep the grit there and to keep us focused on what we're wanting to do. And if I can offer just one little strategy, and we did talk about this on the podcast this morning, is that people often have good intentions. People have things that they want to be doing, and then they will make decisions that are contrary to that, So I need to get lots of sleep. I need to get, enough sleep. I need to get as much sleep as I can. But I don't want to miss out on what everyone else is doing. I don't want to miss out on chatting on my friends on my phone. I don't want to miss out on watching that TV series that I'm watching or whatever those things might be. And I think one of the things that gets hard for athletes, and sometimes the reasons why we might push back, is because we feel like we're being told what to do. And most people don't like that. So we feel like we're being told what to do. So therefore, first thing I do is I say to athletes, you don't have to. You don't have to go to bed early. You don't have to get up early. You don't have to do your rehab. You don't have to make a healthy food choice this afternoon if there's some junk food in front of you. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is to live with the consequences of whatever those decisions are. So one of the little strategies that I've used with a lot of people and I use myself, that I find particularly helpful, is when I'm paying attention. So it is about being mindful. So when I'm paying attention to what I'm doing, let's stick with the food option. It's 3:00 in the afternoon. I'm clearly working here at home today, and I wander downstairs and I think I want something for afternoon tea. And let's just say there is a sweet option downstairs, and there is some carrot sticks and celery sticks and some hummus and stuff like that. So a more savory option. And the second option that I've described is probably the healthier option than the sweet option that I do know that is downstairs at the moment. So I can eat either of those things. I can have the cake, or I can have the veggies and the hummus. Either one of those. Sometimes the way to help me make that decision, the way to help me to work towards my passion, to keep myself persevering towards my goal, is to ask myself a very simple question, which is, does the decision I'm about to make get me closer to my goal or further from my goal? So does this decision I'm about to make get me closer to my goal or further from my goal? So if if my goal is to do with health and fitness and maintaining my weight, say, then probably the hummus and the salad and so forth is going to keep me closer to my goal, and the enormous piece of cake is going to take me further from my goal. So just by asking myself that question through that really curious lens, which keeps me closer to my goal or further from my goal, that may then help me make the decision, particularly when it's 3:00 in the afternoon, which no one's surprised to hear that habits are most easily broken in the afternoon when we're tired and we're fatigued. So sometimes the reason we break those habits is not because we're psychologically weak, it's just that we're human and we're tired. And I would rather eat cake in the afternoon than eat anything else. So that simple question, does this get me closer to my goal or further from my goal? We take it in the context of one of the other examples I gave you about sleep. So the decision, I'm lying on the couch watching a Netflix series, let's say I've started up early and I've watched 2 episodes of it, and that little button's coming across, about to flick me into the next episode. If I at that point go, okay, hang on a sec, it's 9:30 at night, say, and the next episode's going to take me in past 10 o'clock, watch it or not watch it, which of those decisions gets me closer to my goal? Now, if I'm getting up early in the morning to exercise, which is normally what I'm doing, then turning it off, sadly, is going to get me closer to my goal. So that whole notion of developing grit, I just wanted to give you one idea here this afternoon. So when you're looking to use passion and perseverance to stick in there, to hang in there, to make the decisions that are going to be more helpful for you, one of the ways that you can do it is to ask yourself that question. Will this get me closer to my goal or further from my goal? So I hope that gives you something to think about. If you are a journaler, perhaps you might like to write some notes about that in your journal or have some thoughts in it. Or if you want to be a bit more external with that, maybe you want to write something in underneath the chat here, or send me a message. I'd be very curious to see how you find that very simple little strategy that is certainly one that I lean into whenever I'm wanting to help myself make a better decision for myself. Just a couple of notes to let you know about. So if you are watching this in the Facebook group. Then if you want to go back and revisit any of the previous videos that we've done, you can just scroll down through the feed or jump into the YouTube channel where you'll find them all there sitting neatly under a playlist. If you've come across these videos through YouTube, then if you'd like to jump into the Winning Strategies Facebook group where there's extra content that's in there, would be happy for you to do so. Please feel free if at any stage you want to send me a question in for the Q&A, that would be great as well. And just a reminder for those who have pre-purchased a copy of Belief, Building Unshakable Confidence, which is my next book that is coming out, that I have a live Zoom on Tuesday now I can never remember, I'm sure it is Tuesday the 26th of March at 6 p.m, which is Australian Eastern Standard Time, and then we can convert it obviously for wherever you are in the world. So that webinar will go for an hour, and it's about some of the background behind the book Belief, but also some extra little tips and tricks that aren't included in the book to help build some more information for you around that. So if you have pre-purchased the book, you can come along to that live Zoom meeting next Tuesday. If that doesn't suit, I've already had a couple of people tell me that they're traveling, they're on planes, they're various places. It was always going to be hard to pick a time that would suit everyone. But we're recording the Zoom meeting, and then that will get emailed out to you afterwards. So if you have pre-purchased Belief, you should have already received your first email with the Zoom link for you to jump into that meeting next Tuesday if you're able to. If you have bought the book and you haven't received the link, can you maybe get in contact with us, because we've sent it out to the email address where the confirmations came through for the book. And if you haven't purchased the book yet and you're interested to, and you'd like to come along to the webinar as well, we've still got a couple more spots. We found a way to open up a few more spots in the meeting, so I've been able to expand the numbers, which is great. So the links are in the Facebook group and on my Facebook page, so feel free to jump in and have a look at the book and see if that's something that you're interested to read. And if you get a copy of it before, we'll send the links through right through till probably lunchtime on Tuesday, and look forward to seeing those of you in the group and coming along to the meeting next Tuesday night, which will be before our next Q&A live. So have a great week. We've got a busy week in front of us here. We've got Pink up in North Queensland this weekend, so I've managed to get a ticket to that, which is pretty exciting. So going along to that concert, and then obviously plenty of sport on around the place as well. So have a great week, everyone, and look forward to seeing you maybe twice next week.